I've always been a real academic, and I was starting to feel like I wasn't using this anymore. And my ex-wife really wasn't into living in a smaller town, living in a tourism world, running a campground, things like that. So
Mhm.
we grew apart as individuals, and I wanted to, expand my mind. I wanted to grow more.
What if the truth came in a gel cap and we could just pop it in our mouths and forget about it? Well, it doesn't, and we can't. But we can laugh in the face of reality while plotting our survival. Welcome to the Truth Tastes Funny podcast. I am your host, Hirsch Redpun, and if my guests can handle the truth, so can you. Open wide, folks. Here it comes. My guest today on Truth Tastes Funny is Joseph J.D. Dubois. Joseph lives courageously and acts audaciously. If you've been listening to my show, you may know that audacity is my word for 2025. He does it by being his authentic self. He's the founder of Freedom Biker Tours, and we're going to talk about his journey and the other A words, authenticity and acceptance. So welcome, JD, to the podcast.
Thanks. Thanks, Hirsch. Really appreciate it. Happy to be here.
It's great to have you. So let's go back in time a little bit and tell us about your journey, because I know you've overcome a lot of stuff, and our audience always likes to hear these kind of success stories. But success stories don't happen without a struggle.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. They don't. It's the old saying, two steps backward, one step forward, two steps backward, one step forward, right? So there's
Yeah.
always a hill to climb. Well, I've been in the travel tourism and hospitality industry for 40 years. And 10 years ago, I was working for a big hotel chain in Vancouver, British Columbia. And I was married and we had a daughter. And I was struggling with, I was a white collar guy and I had a long commute to work every day. Like it could be up to 2 or 3 hours if the weather got bad or if there was accidents, things like that. And it went on for about 7 years. And I was really struggling with some of my own identity at that point in time. And a new president of the company came on board, and he was a do as I say, not as I do type of leader. And that was it for me. I really struggle with that kind of thing because I'm a kind of roll up your sleeves and get in the trenches with the team, even if I'm a team leader or manager, an executive. Those are my beliefs. And he really cleaned house with the people that just didn't, shut up and do what they were told.
Yeah.
So I was one of them that got cleaned house, got a big severance package, and off I went and created my own business. I bought a campground and RV park. I moved to the Okanagan Valley in British Columbia, which is a big tourist area with lots of lakes and golfs and wineries and things. And we did that. We opened that up. I started my own tourism consulting firm. And at its heyday, I had 15 hotels and resorts in my portfolio, doing different levels of consulting work, sales and marketing, things like that for non-branded, smaller, independently owned hotels and resorts in Western Canada. And then I decided I wanted to get divorced. And
Oh, okay.
at the same time, I decided I was going to do my third post-secondary accreditation. I was going to do a graduate degree, master's degree. So, it's not like I didn't really think that, I needed to take a break or anything. I figured, what the hell, I'm going to go this way, right?
So
So
what was the connection in your mind between wanting to make this big life change and then going for the secondary degree? Was it something that somehow your personal growth was being hindered in the relationship? What was happening there?
that's exactly it. I've always been a real academic, and I was starting to feel like I wasn't using this anymore. And my ex-wife really wasn't into living in a smaller town, living in a tourism world, running a campground, things like that. So
Mhm.
we grew apart as individuals, and I wanted to, expand my mind. I wanted to grow more. I'm constantly growing. That's the whole authenticity thing, living courageously, audaciously, being my authentic self, and I just needed to do it. So off we went, got divorced. That was a bit traumatic in of itself. But the funny thing is now 10 years later, we're communicating. Our daughter got married 6 months ago. Everything's rosy.
Congrats.
Everything's rosy, right? But back then, so that was traumatic. Plus the 3 years of the master's degree, that was interesting. A lot of work while I was building, still running the campground, building up my consulting business. But then after I graduated, I was out one day riding. Well, actually, I should back up a little bit. In 2012, while I was still married, but thinking of breaking it up, I was in a motorcycle accident
Oh,
and I broke some bones, and it was pretty shattering. But I got back up on two wheels the next year and bought another Harley Davidson and got out riding. And then in 2016, while I was trying to develop the land that my campground was on, I was trying to work with some developers and builders and build a bunch of townhomes and make a bit of money, and that I was in another motorcycle accident. This time I had a passenger, and this time it was much more dramatic. She was badly hurt, lots of broken bones. My bike was a write-off. The car was a write-off. It was the car driver's fault. But literally, I sustained neck, back, shoulder injuries, concussion. I have lifelong problems in those areas, but I deal with them with exercise and physiotherapy and that kind of stuff. But that trauma is still with me to this day. I still have nightmares about it and relive it and all that. But what happened was the people that we were working with to develop the property tried to take advantage of our compromised situation and steal the land. And it
oh,
became
wow.
it became a very expensive 2 year long legal battle.
I see.
And at the end of the day, I won, of course, because I was in the right, but I lost everything.
Yeah.
Right?
That's the thing
Include,
with some of those legal battles is winning isn't always winning.
yeah,
Uh, you
exactly.
know, but
Yeah.
you have to fight for what's right, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah. So what happened after that?
Well, including the relationship, I lost the relationship as well. I was on my own for a while, ran the campground, finally closed it up, continued to live there, doing my consulting work and starting to think about freedom biker tours. But then I ended up, I sold the campground to a reputable developer, and there's 20 townhouses built on it now. And, off I went, stayed in the same town, just started renting a home for a while, living on my own, healing. I did a lot of research, I meditate all the time. I've read a lot of books. I've really done a lot of research on self-healing and that kind of thing. And it's really helped me a lot to get over the trauma and that. And, involved in the whole legal battle scenario, a family member who had some money in the project also came after me, and it was one of my brothers. And
Yeah.
that was really the icing on the cake for me from a traumatic experience, right? To be chased after and sued by one of your brothers, right?
Yeah.
And we're still estranged to this day because of that.
Like a
Right?
brother,
Yeah, yeah, I have three brothers.
not just a brother from like a biking brother, like a biker
No,
brother,
no,
a brother like your brother.
a brother like my mother and father's first son.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And I'm still debating now whether I want to reach out to him, this year and try one last attempt to mend fences or not. I don't know. He's a lot older than I am. He's 16 years older than me.
Uh-huh.
and
Okay.
that. So it's a long story, but so I cruised along and entered into another relationship, and at the same time started a business for her, non-tourism related, and then started Freedom Biker Tours. And I still work for hotels in the Canadian Rockies. So everything's chugging along fine. I'm back to riding. I'm really enjoying my life. I'm still healing on the healing journey. And then that relationship wasn't really the one I wanted. She really
Yeah.
wasn't my person, right? So I ended that relationship, and that had a whole spin-off mess of things involved with it, and trauma and emotional upheaval and financial issues and all that kind of stuff. And persevered through that. And I'm now in the relationship. I found my person. She is an amazing human being, and we are engaged. And Freedom Biker
Congrats.
Tours is moving into its third summer season of operation this year. And the tours are selling well, and our digital marketing footprint is growing by leaps and bounds. And my hotel in Banff is closed right now and renovating and rebranding, and we're opening in a few months as the most upscale, modern boutique hotel product in the town. And I've moved from the Okanagan to Calgary, Alberta, a few months ago, and I don't really have anything to complain about at the moment.
Well, I think that the interesting challenge is, you mentioned living as your authentic self. Is it, do you feel like during those times, of upheaval, it is hard, I think, to find the one, your soulmate, your person, when you're being almost smacked around on a slalom, you're kind of going through all these different things, and your authentic self is wanting to emerge. You made the effort to end a marriage that wasn't, where you grown apart. You uh you made other changes and grew as a person, but sometimes, like with the accidents, and people taking advantage, and then a sibling, suing you, those things make it hard to find that person, do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I struggled. My father, I was born on an Air Force base in Germany. My father was an officer in the Canadian Air Force for 30 years. He joined up in 1940 when he was 18 years old, retired in 1970, and then went to work for Transport Canada after that. But he was an officer and a gentleman, and he raised us all to be like that. And he was a conservative fellow and a family man, but the strongest human being I've ever met in my life. And he lived to be just after his 99th birthday.
Oh,
He,
yeah.
we lost him in 2021 during COVID, after his birthday. But, you know, for the longest time, I was kind of trying to be him, and I realized after moving to the Okanagan and having that campground and my marriage and all that, I realized that I wasn't him. There were aspects of him in me, but the good parts of him in me, but the rest of it, I was a bit of a rebel. And I was starting to, like you say, I was starting to find my authentic self, and I was starting to realize that I couldn't work for other people, and that the corporate world was, pardon my language, often a real shit show.
Yeah.
And it's not designed for someone like myself, who really, really wants to break out and be their authentic self and has that entrepreneurial spirit and doesn't want to follow, wants to lead, most of the time, and that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
you're right.
Yeah. Well, listen, I am so glad that you came on the show today. What I like to do is let my guests, first of all, tell us where they can find you. We'll have it in the show notes, but what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Like from an email perspective.
Well, from a website, from a, is there a
Okay,
website that you
freedombikertours.com is
perfect?
the website for the company. And, we have a generic email address there. My email address is jd@freedombikertours.com.
Perfect. And then just, we're still in the early part of the year. Give our listeners who are always looking for ways to overcome life's challenges, to make a mindset shift or a shift in perspective so that we can get aligned as you've finally, been able to get to. What's a word of advice that you might give them?
Don't wait. If you've got any kind of an idea, do it now, whether it's start your own small business, whether it's take the kind of holiday that you've always thought of taking. Don't wait. If you feel that it's a bit of a risk, and it probably is, do it anyway.
Thanks so much for tuning into Truth Tastes Funny. If you enjoyed the experience, please leave a 5-star review and share this podcast with your friends.